Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGeek webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Microsoft Project 2010 Series Session 1. Ready, Set, Go, preparing Project 2010 to build a schedule. Our guest speaker today is Mr. B. Sai Prasad, Senior Manager, Learning and Development, Cognizant Technology Solutions India Private Limited. B. Sai Prasad, Senior Manager, Learning and Development, has been with service provider Cognizant Technology Solutions India Private Limited since 2001, where he was named winner of the company's Global Trainer of the Year award. He has conducted 7,000 plus hours of training in technical project management topics. He has trained around 4,000 plus practitioners on project management concepts, risk management, scheduling, estimation techniques, and Microsoft Office project. He is a certified PMP, PMI, SP, and champion of project management, PMI India. He is also working with Project Management Institute Education Foundation for promoting projects management concepts to colleges. He has participated as a speaker, panelist in many PMI, REPs, and chapters events. He is a Microsoft Certified Technology Specialist in Project 2007 and Project 2010. He started the first Microsoft Project User Group, India chapter to promote and help practitioners within and outside India on Microsoft Office projects. He is also the editor of the project management book, Forecast Scheduling with Microsoft Project 2010. He is a vivid blogger, and you can read his blog post at http://www.sainivas.com. You can reach him via sai@sainivas.com. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Mr. Sai.
Thank you, Mohini. So good evening, everybody. So I welcome you all for the session 1 of this Project 2010 series, where we would be first understanding how to prepare Microsoft Project 10 to build a forecast-ready schedule. So these are the 10 episodes which we'll talk about as a part of the series. So the next session will be on next week on 12th of September. So let's start with a simple anecdote. I have seen a lot of people when they try to manage projects that they try to use Microsoft Project to a manner what is possible, and finally they move to a spreadsheet to manage their daily projects. Another way of looking at it is I've seen even first-time users making this statement like Microsoft Project is an enhanced version of Microsoft Excel. So if I just take a look at the screen, what you're currently looking at is a Microsoft Office Excel. This looks very similar to the project what I'm just going to show you, because both look pretty much alike. So I think the first step, I think we need to change our mental block in terms of what is Microsoft Project as such, okay, and how can it help me to simplify day-to-day work in my project also. So the first question what we have in our mind is, why do we need to build a schedule? Okay, so because not every project will ideally need to have a schedule. So let's ask ourselves, why do we need to build a schedule first? The first point is we would like to do a selling. Okay, so what do I mean by selling? So when you want to sell an idea to an upper management, or you are trying to sell a new project to a customer, right? You would ideally want very less information to do that selling, okay? Because the expected result is you want to win a contract or you want to do business with them. So that would be one reason why you want to prepare a schedule. Let's say after you have won the contract or won the business with them, the next step ideally what you might want to do with a schedule is a delegate. When I say delegate, it can be seen as a mechanism by which it acts like an instrument between you and the team, through which each one of your team members will ideally know who should do which activity. How can this be achieved? So remember, in selling you will ideally create only a high-level planning, whereas when you get into a delegation mode, naturally you need to have more detailed work breakdown structure with activities and resources assigned to the lowest level. So once you have delegated, the third goal which you might have in your mind is tracking. right? So there is no use of preparing a plan without you doing tracking. I hope all of you would have heard a statement. A plan is useless, but planning is ideally indispensable for every project manager, right? So when you talk about tracking, we are just trying to find ways by which you record the actual status of your project into your schedule. So the output of tracking is going to be status reports and sharing it to customers. And that's what people think about tracking. But more importantly, I feel that it is tracking a project helps a team member as well as a project manager to know more about the team, okay? And they will be able to learn from the past mistakes so that they don't commit it in future. And the last goal which you need in mind is forecastable. When I say forecastable, which means that you have the promises made by the customer or you made to the customer, this should be captured because you are going to predict whether you are going on the right track or not. These are the 4 simple reasons why we need to build a schedule for manage all our day-to-day work. The next challenge what we have is the project manager, as you can see, is a one single point of contact in every project. So he should ideally have a forecast ready or an accurate schedule so that he would be able to know where he is trying to move with respect to his project. How is this possible? So I'm not going to give you a magic tip like use Microsoft Project, things will fall in place. No, that will not be possible. Even if you use Microsoft Project 2010 or the earlier version of Microsoft Project, what you need to keep in mind is a scheduling is a modeling technique. Okay, when I say modeling technique, you can try to relate it to how architects and builders, before they raise the building, they try to create an architecture or a 3D blueprint of the final building with just a fraction of the project cost. So that will help them to understand an overall picture of what is going to happen in this project, what are the typical challenges they might have, and that is what I mean by a modeling. So in order to create a dynamic and a forecastable model in your project, I think there are a few attributes you need to remember. The first point is the model should ideally be a deliberate and a smart simplification of your reality. I've seen a lot of project managers building schedules using Microsoft Project, but they go at a very, very micro level. Don't do that. Because if you go at a very, very micro level, you are stealing the freedom from your team members also. So unless if it is required, don't go to that level. So you need to deliberately simplify the reality of your project by creating a model. The second requirement is you should be having that predictive power. I hope what I mean by predictive power is you should be able to know when your project is going to finish. What is the total final cost of your project? What is the total final work? Where am I deviating? As my critical path has changed, you should be able to predict those areas. The third one is you should be, the plan, the forecastable model should be accessible to all your stakeholders. It could be your team members, yourself, customer, management, sponsors. It should be accessible at all point in time, which means you need to keep your plan up to date. So I'm just trying to give you a disclaimer that using Microsoft Project does not mean you will be able to build a dynamic schedule, but it will help you to build a dynamic schedule if you go by the guidelines at which we are going to learn. Okay, so with that, let's move on to what we are going to learn in this program of Ready, Set, Go. Okay, so we are not going to go for long, okay, because it's going to be a 10 episode series. What we are going to look at is how is Project 2010 different from the earlier versions of Project, and how can it help you to tailor as per your project needs. Okay. So the takeaways as a part of the, I can say the next 45 minutes is going to be this. Okay. So we are going to first talk about how to structure the MPP file. No? What is the structure of the MPP file? Then we will talk about the new Fluent user interface that is available in Project 2010. Then we will move on to what we mean by Backstage View. And the fourth one is called as the user control scheduling, where you can gain the power of controlling the schedule rather than Microsoft Project doing it for you. And finally, we'll conclude with a few more options like the team planner view and the task inspector also. But let's talk about this MPP file. Okay, so when I talk to people about MPP file, they just try to look at like another simple file that is stored in their hard disk. So when you say an MPP file, right? So MPP first, we need to expand it first. A lot of times people say MPP means Microsoft Project Plan. They say Microsoft Project Planner. We have a lot of creative terms coming into the picture. But the real definition is MPP stands for Microsoft Project. Microsoft Project is the software which you open, and project is your project what you are managing from the beginning till the end. Now let's get back to the story. When you talk about MPP file, I want you to visualize it like a database, okay? A relational database which has some tables and data in it. So when you talk about this MPP file, it has a database which has 3 tables in it. The first table is called as the task table. The second table is called as a resource table, and the third one is called as the assignments table. Now let's go further down. So when you talk about the task table, it will have all attributes of the task, all data related to a task. Let me give you a few more attributes of the task. And it's very simple. One is name of the task, right? We have the duration of the task. We have an effort for a task. We have a start date and a finish date for a task. We have relationship between tasks. We have, I can say, the task IDs, right? The priority of the task. All these are more bundled together, and it is stored in the first table called task table. The second table is what we call as the resource table, which will have all information about resources. So if you are working on a project where only people are your resources, yeah, you can talk about people names, their availability, their vacation plans, their holidays, their availability to the project. All these are resources. But if you are coming from an industry where you try to use machineries, you use materials, even those can be considered as resources here. The third table talks about assignment, where we try to connect the task with the resources, where we say this resource is ideally responsible for doing this activity as a part of your project. So just visualize the MPP file like a database which has 3 tables, task, resources, and assignments. But the challenge what we have now is each table has around 300 fields. I'm repeating it, each table is around 300 fields. So total it up, you have around 900 fields in Microsoft Project. So if I show you 900 fields on one single screen, you might try to better manage it through Excel rather than going for Microsoft Project. So what Microsoft seriously decided is the data that is stored in these 3 tables should not be directly shown to the user. Instead, it should be simplified using different components. So the first component you need to understand in Microsoft Project is called views. Okay. So when you talk about views, right, I'm just going to show you a demo of it. So when I open Microsoft Project 2010, this is just another difference with comparison with people who have been using 2003 or 2007. You might find in 2003 and 2007 you had the, I can say, the menu-based interface, right? The file, edit, and so on. So, whereas everything has been changed here. You can see it is more a ribbon-based interface what you are ideally seeing. Okay. So coming back to our question, we are talking about something called views. If you have worked on database, I hope you know what a view is. A view is ideally a virtual table. Okay. A table, when I say in a database, it's a physical table. Okay. When I delete the table, everything goes for a toss. But when I delete a view, nothing happens because the data is still stored in the underlying table. So what Microsoft has decided is they try to take the same idea of views, and the data in those 3 tables are projected to us through different views. So if you just take a look at my right hand side, right, that is the left hand side, you are able to see there is a small name that is getting printed where I'm circling now. It's called Gantt chart. A lot of times people think Gantt chart is the enhanced version of Excel, but it was not true. Gantt chart is the name of the person who invented or who designed this chart for us. Okay, so this is one way of looking at it. So I'll give you some sample data so that you can understand what a view is. Let me say I have an activity like this, and let me say this activity is going to take 5 days, and I have another activity called reviews. Okay, so we'll get into the details of what I just did. But as you can see, I just had 2 tasks, and they are connected with each other. So as you can see, a Gantt chart shows you the data more on the left in a tabular, on the right in more a bar chart manner. Okay, but this view the data can also be shown in a different view. So for which you need to go to the view ribbon, where you are having different views available here. So let me change my view to a view called network diagram, which you are now pointing to. Now you are able to see the same data shown in a different format for us. And as you can see, this simplification is ideally needed because we need to communicate or we need to discuss with the different stakeholders as a part of your project plan. Okay, so that is what I meant by views. The next component which I need to talk about is called tables. Tables, don't try to connect it to the database table, though they have used the same term. When I say table, I just want you to go back to the Gantt chart again. Okay. So if you look at the Gantt chart, to my left you see a set of data that is being displayed, like a task mode, task name, duration, start, finish, predecessors, and resources. That's good, but I might want to know the cost that is incurred for these activities, or I would like to know the variance of these activities. How do I know that? So what Microsoft has decided is they told you don't need to change the view, but you can change the columns in this view by what we call as tables. So going back to the same view tab, you can find there is a table option available where you can just change the data that is displayed on your current view. So currently I'm in my entry. If I just change it to cost, you're able to see my view has not changed, but my table has changed because the data that is being displayed on this view is going to be totally different. So as you can see, right, ideally Microsoft have also, but the next challenge what we have is though the data is protected in different ways,
Sai, I would like to
we want
interrupt
to
you.
filter some data.
I would like to interrupt you.
Yes,
There is a lot of disturbance coming from the back. There's some
is it
echo
okay now?
sound. That it is once you speak in flow, it starts coming in between. Like after it repeats periodically. So that sound problem is there, and your voice is breaking in between. I guess there is some network issue. Can you please check once?
One. Is it better now, Mohini? Or do you have the problem again?
Yeah, it's better now. But I hope that echo doesn't come in between. The voice
Okay.
is better now. You can continue now.
Yeah, because there is, yeah, okay. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so let me just repeat what I just told for the benefit of everybody. We talked about what we call as view and tables, right? But the data can be further simplified by what we call as filters and groups, okay? Let me take a simple example. Let's say we have a sign-off activity, okay? As you know, sign-off means it's a milestone. So let me try to so as you can ideally see, I have two tasks and followed by a milestone. Maybe you want to filter only milestones in this project, right? So you don't need to go anywhere. You can just look at, there is a filter option on the same view ribbon where you can say filter all milestones, which means only the milestone will be displayed, the remaining activities will be hidden on the screen. It does not stop here. If you want to group the activities by different way, you can also group it. For example, if I say group by milestones here, you can see the list of activities that are milestones, and those activities that are not milestones are listed in the other group. So the key point what I just wanted to carry now is something very important, right? If you look at Microsoft project, right, ideally it's not a simple tool, right? Because it is ideally used for building a forecast ready schedule, which has different components like views, tables, filters, and groups also. Okay. Now let's move on to the first feature which I'm going to elaborate. The first one is called as the ribbon or the Fluent interface that ideally replaces the menus and the toolbars that was available in the earlier version. So let me go back to my project 2010 so that I can spend some enough time on it. You're able to find on my screen there are different ribbons that are currently shown, right? So you can see currently I'm looking at my Gantt chart. I hope you can see my ribbon is Gantt chart. And you're able to see there are ribbons like task ribbon, resource ribbon, project ribbon. We have a ribbon for view, and you have a ribbon called format. On top of this format, you can see something called Gantt chart. Remember, the option that is shown on the format ribbon will ideally change based on what view you are currently looking at. Okay, so currently I'm looking at a Gantt chart. So you see Gantt chart related formatting options. If I'm looking at a different view, for example, a network diagram, you can see the format menu ideally changes. So depending on what view you are currently looking at, the format is going to be very, very sensitive. The second one is the task ribbon. If you just look at the task ribbon, you are able to see there are different options provided. One option is to change your views. The second option, if you look at it, where you can do a copy of it. Okay, so you have an option here where you can do a copy picture. Okay, let me try to open project 2003 so that I can how this works. Okay, if you are a project 2007 or project 2003 user, I hope you are able to see on your menu items, you can see there is a copy picture option available. Okay, so there is a copy picture option available on your toolbars. Okay, this option has ideally been moved here. You can find it under the copy here. Okay, the second one is you have options to format. You have options here to set dependencies. Okay, and you have some options here which are more task related. Like there is an option called manually scheduled and auto schedule, which we'll talk later. And there is an option through which you can inspect the task. And if you like to push this task to a later date, if you look at project 7 or project 3, it is only through the toolbars you will be able to do it. Here ideally I can say I need to move this activity by another 1 day. Okay, automatically you can see this activity gets moved. Okay, and we'll come back to the mode again. And I think this is something which I like most, because I think graphically it tells you what type of task you want to add. For example, if I want to add a task here, you can make use of this option here. It will create a dummy task for you where you can key in the task name. And there are other options available through which you can do scroll to the selected activity. Okay, what I mean by that is, let's say if I'm not able to look at my the taskbar to my right of the Gantt chart, right? So you can just select that row or that cell and you can say scroll to that particular task, okay, so that you can find where the task is located. The second is the resource, which is more resource centric, okay, which has options that are more related to resources, where you can assign resources, where we can bring options to provide details about resource. As you know, resource optimization is always a key requirement for every project. So you have options here to optimize it. Okay. The third one talks about project. Okay. Here you have options where you can insert a sub-project into your main project. You have options to set your project start date or link between projects or change the working time. Okay. I'm not getting into the details of each one of these menu items. I just want you to know where each one of them are located, so that you can just play around at maybe for the next 1 week, so that when you come back for session 2, you'll be able to know where these options are also. And you also have an options to move the project or update the project to a later date. And the view is what I already told you. Okay, so this is what I mean by the view interface. Okay. The second one is something called a backstage that replaces the commands in the file and the options dialog of the earlier version. So going back to project 2003, I hope you know that you have a file menu through which you can save it and you can print it. All these options are there. Apart from it, you know, if I want to configure anything globally with respect to a project, you can go to the tools options. Okay, you can go to the tools options. I hope you are able to find there is a dialog box through which you will be able to change the settings. The options dialog has totally disappeared in project 2010, okay? Because in project 2010, everything is accessible through the backstage view. So the backstage view is this view, what you're currently seeing through the file tab. So through which you can save it, you can open the files, okay? And when you say, I want to save and send it, okay, you have different formats to which you can save it. Save it to PDF, XPS, you can print it, you have a graphical representation or a print preview of it quite immediately. And the options have ideally moved here. And remember, the options is not in the same way what you saw in project 2007 or project 2010. Here all the menu items or the drop downs on those tabs have been merged, and that has been categorized here through the schedule, and the advanced options. So let me run through some of these options so that you get a hold of it. So the first one is a general one. Okay, here it is more the color theme what you ideally want. So when I say blue, you're able to see I get a blue interface on my screen. Okay, so that is what the blue or the silver means. And I've seen a lot of times when people try to work on project, they want to change the date format of your projects. So this is what is available. You might want to change the date format here. And currently, when you open Microsoft Project 2010, you were able to see your Gantt chart was shown on the bottom, and you are also able to see on your top there is a view called timeline. Okay, so you can see it is more sandwiched on timeline and Gantt chart. But for example, if you want the next time when I open Microsoft Project, I want some other view to be displayed. For example, Gantt chart. Okay, yeah, you can save the setting so that the next time when you open project, this will be the default view than any other view. Okay. The username and initials is very much required because when you save this file, this setting is going to be saved. The next is the display, where you might want to enter any currency symbols or anything. Okay, and this might be handy for some people who would like to work on Excel. So if you looked at Excel, I hope you know, instead of entering a value here in Excel, right? So naturally you can select this entry bar. Here also you can say 10. Both means the same, right? So you can go to the entry bar. By default, if you look at Project 2010, the entry bar will be not shown. So when I turn on the entry bar, I hope you guys can see the entry bar will be shown on your screens also. So that is about the display. You have some schedule options. We'll come back to these options again, but more importantly, configuring these options is going to be the first agenda item what we are going to have in session 2, because we need to configure it as per our project needs. I hope some of you would have seen it, me doing it. Let me demonstrate this for those who didn't cast their eyes. So when I say TP here and I say press enter, you're able to see it automatically replaces TP with a task name, right? So you might wonder how is this happening. What I did is in my options proofing, there is an autocorrect option available where I ideally provided a replace command where I said whenever TP is provided, it needs to be changed to prepare document. Whenever TR is provided, review document. So this can save a lot of time for you, because if the same task name is repeated again and again, you might try to use this dictionary or autocorrect to get those problems solved. Okay, and with respect to saving it, okay, you might want to save it automatically here, and since the file size is going to be initially stored in your memory, you might want to have the cache size accordingly. The advanced options provide you more control over what are the error messages that are being displayed through the planning wizard. Okay, and also it gives you information about what are the display options. By default, you are able to see the duration is displayed in days, right? So rather than if you want to display it in D, okay, so naturally you will be able to see it. The duration will ideally change it to the display format. Okay, so I suggest that you play around with these options, what I just showed you, so that you understand it better. The second thing is when you look at Project 2007, right, or Project 2003, there is always an option where you can ideally customize your toolbars here. Okay, but if you look at Project 2010, the concept has totally changed. We don't have any menu items. Instead, we have only ribbons. So you can also customize the ribbons through this. For example, if I just want to look at this particular activity, let's say if I want to have it done by task ribbon, so I can create a new group and I can give my own name here. I can just say, okay, I can give tech gig. Okay, and let me say for tech gig, I would like to add these things under this. And let me say, okay. Okay, so you're able to see on my task ribbon now, you're able to see under tech gig, I hope you're able to see on my rightmost corner, the ribbon is automatically getting customized. Okay, so this does not stop here. You can also export this data, what you're seeing in the ribbon. Okay, you can also export it so that you can share it to others who would like to use it also. Next comes the quick toolbar, right? The quick access toolbar, which I like most. Remember, When the first time when I started using Microsoft Project 2000, I was so confused which ribbon, what option, where to select. I was so confused. After a few hours, I found out I don't use all the options on all the ribbon. Why can't I have a shortcut for the options what I use most? That is when I found there is an option which you can find on the top. You can find there is an option called Quick Access Toolbar, right? You can have so you can ideally right-click anywhere, right? You can right-click here, and you can ideally say Show Quick Access Toolbar below ribbon. The reason why I want you to not show it above ribbon is somehow I see that no, you don't have a space or you don't read all the options that are shown on the top. Instead, you can just right-click anywhere on the ribbon and say Show Quick Access Toolbar below the ribbon now. Now the advantage you have is, let's say if I want to make certain activities bold always, okay, I can just right-click this and I can say Add to Quick Access Toolbar. Okay, if I want to link activities quickly, I can right-click and say Add to Quick Access Toolbar. So you are able to see all these options are available here, which can even be exported. So I can come here to the Tools Options, where you are able to see there is an option to Quick Access Toolbar, where you can export this data to a different file also. So I think this is about the Backstage View, okay, which I think which you need to be comfortable with when you're starting using the new version of Project. Once we have understood what a backstage is, I think we would be more comfortable with using the tool. The next thing which I would like to introduce is the easy collaboration option. When I say easy collaboration, it is about how Microsoft Project works seamlessly with other Microsoft products. Okay, I'm going to give you a very simple example. Okay, so I have a Word document here. You can see there are a few set of activities, and I have outlined it. I've added bullets. So you might have received this through emails or Excel or Word. It could be in any format. If you are comparing this to Project 2003, it was quite difficult because when I go to when I just select everything here and I just paste it in Project 2003 or 7, you know what happens, right? It is not getting pasted properly, okay? Because no, the format is not compatible. But I'm just going to go back. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come back to Project 2010. In my Gantt chart, in my task name, I right-click and say paste. Wow. You are able to now find all my activities are just copied. It preserves my outlining also, the structuring. So you don't need to spend effort again outlining, doing things like that. You save a lot of times in terms of that. Okay. So this is what I mean by easy collaboration. Okay. The next one which I wanted to talk about is the view customization. I hope you know what views are, right? Views are ideally a representation of the data in your MPP file. If I try to look at Project 2003, when I want to add a new field on my table or in my view, I need to say select a column, I need to insert it, I need to say insert column, I need to provide my field here like work or whatever it is, and it gets inserted. Yeah, it's a 5-step process to get this result. Whereas in Project 2010, it's quite simple. Either you can go to the last column where it will be just waiting for your input in italics, or you can select any column and you can just press the insert key on your keyboard. Okay, I just press the insert key on my keyboard. It gives me a pop-up saying what field you want me to show there. I can just key in work. Wow. So now you can see the 3-step or 4-step process in Project 2007 and 3 got reduced to 1 or 2 steps. Okay, so this is something which you need to remember when you're talking about customization of views. Okay, the next one is a lot of us would like to, if I have too much of data on my screen, right, you would like to pan in, and zoom out. Okay, so I'm just going to open a file. I'm just going to create a plan. Let me say, so this is just a sample plan which I'm just downloading from the website so that you are able to understand how the zoom in feature ideally works. Okay, let's wait till it gets downloaded. Maybe okay, so let me choose some other file. Okay, so this is just a file which I just got downloaded from the Microsoft project website. So if you just take a look at it, this plan is so complicated because it has so much of data on my screen, right? So this is when you might want to use this option. I'm just on my bottom rightmost corner. You can find there is an option tooltip called zoom slider. So you might want to use this to zoom in and zoom out what you want to look at. Okay, so you might want to take a look at the zoom in and zoom out feature. So if you are in the slider controls, on the same view option, you can see there is a zoom button available here. You can say I want to zoom till days. Okay, so you might want to make use of this zoom slider. The second option you have is just adjacent to the zoom slider. You have some quick access to some of the important views in Microsoft project. So currently you have 4 options here called Gantt chart, task usage. I'm just pointing to the bottom rightmost corner. You can find it. There are 4 icons that are displayed here. So if you want to quickly switch between different views, you don't need to go to the view ribbon. You can just change the views like with a one click. Okay, but the only challenge I have seen here is you cannot customize this portion because it has been nailed down to these 4 views only. Okay. So this is what I just wanted to talk about, how to customize the views. The next view which I just want to discuss is called Team Planner. When you work on Microsoft project, I hope you know there are 2 editions available. One is called a standard edition, another is called a professional edition. The Team Planner view, what I'm going to show you, is available only in the professional edition of Project 2010. It is not available with the standard version of project. Okay, so if you are trying to make a buy decision, okay, decide if you are going to use a Team Planner or not based on my demonstrations. So let me go back to my project. You are able to see there are so many activities here, right? So it's quite difficult for me to know who is doing which activity. I don't see I don't have an outlook like feel to know who is available, who is not available on certain days, because this is more aligned to tasks. So in Project 2010 Professional, there is a view called Team Planner. Okay, so on the view ribbon, you can access the Team Planner by clicking on this option. Now you're able to find the set of activities are now displayed. Okay, since it is a backdated schedule, maybe you see a different color, but let me change it first so that you are able to understand it better. Okay, good. Now I think this would be much better. Okay, so if you look at it, to my left, you have the names of the resources. To my right, you are able to see the activities more attached to time scale. You know who is going to do which activity. The advantage of this particular view is you will be able to drag an activity and drop it to another resource. Let me give you a demonstration. Let me say I have a resource called project management. Okay, it's just another role. I just want to move this activity to another resource. I can just drag it and I can drop it here. That's it. The moment I drag and drop, as you can see, the resource is no more working on 2 parallel activities. So in case if you feel I don't want that to be done, is there any other way in Team Planner to do it? Yeah, there are many options available. So I think the tooltip here is the biggest tooltip I have ever seen in Microsoft Office applications. It has a lot of critical information if you look at it. The last line of this tooltip is very, very important. It talks about the task path. It tells this execute marketing plan. What are the activities that are happening before that, right? It is the activity before that is post-launch product cycle. Before that, we have a post-launch product evaluation. Another option you have is you can right-click this particular task which you want to reassign, and I can say reassign to project management. That's good. So you have the same result anyway. So this is much easier for you to drag and drop rather than using any other views. But there are a lot of challenges you might see, or there are not all options can be done through Team Planner. But I just wanted to showcase this is a new view that has been added that will simplify some of the reassignments which you might be working on. The next view which I want to talk about is called the timeline. Okay, when I say timeline, it's all about gives you a high-level picture about your project, more in a graphical and a pictorial manner. Okay, so let me go back to my Gantt chart here. You can see I have around 81 different activities. Not all the activities might be so important for the customer or for the management. They would like to have a simplified version of the data in the schedule. I cannot export it to PDF because it has so much of data. So this is when you can go to the view ribbon and you can see on this place where I'm circling now, you have an option called timeline. The moment I select timeline, it gives me a timeline view on the top. Okay, so this is more, tells you with respect to the from the project start date until the project finish date, right? So this project starts on 2/4/7, it completes on 6/12/07. So depending on what area you are looking on your right hand side, accordingly you can see a bar that is being shown here. So if you want to see the complete set of data on your right hand side, you can just try to pull this. The moment you pull it, you are able to see in a skewed format the complete project can be shown on your Gantt chart. That's good. You are able to zoom in through this feature. But what is timescale? When I say timescale, you can just identify the important activities in your project that needs to be communicated, and you can just add it to timeline. Let me add it first. So the first activity I'm going to add it is the name of the project. So I'm right clicking and I'm going to say add to timescale. Okay. The second set of activity I would like to add is the names of the phases. Okay. Let me select all these activities. So these are the different activities I have. I'm right clicking, I'm saying add to timeline. You're able to see under my product I have these different phases. Now I don't look, this color does not look good. So I might want to change, instead of a bar, can I have more like a call out feature? Yeah, you can do it. Since I am now in my timeline, you can see my formatting would have changed, where I have options to change the shapes of the bars that are displayed there. So I'm selecting my project name and I'm saying display as a call out. Okay, the second one I just want it to be green. Maybe the third or the fourth I just want it to be, let's say, orange. Okay, accordingly you can do it. The next one is if you want to add some important milestones to your project, yeah, you can just still right click those and you can say add to timeline. Okay, you have those milestones. Okay, so now what is the benefit of this time scale? So you can just go back to the format ribbon again. You can see there is an option called copy timescale for presentation, for email, or whatever it is. So if I say for presentation and I just go back to the sample document and I'm just trying to paste it. Okay, so now you are able to see that the same data is being embedded in an OLE embedded format. So you can see that there will not be any loss of clarity on the image that gets copied into your Word document. Okay, so this is the new timeline view that has been added as a part of your project 2010. The next feature is the user control scheduling. Yeah, in project 2003, the moment I enter a task name, okay, the moment I enter a task name, you are able to find project automatically calculates the duration, start date, and finish date. Though this is good from the point of dynamic plan, I think initially people might want to provide some high-level information or a draft plan. I cannot even say it's a draft plan. It's a work in progress plan where they would like to have some data about the duration or start date or finish date. So they would like to have a control over how that can be done. That is when Microsoft 2010 introduced this concept called task mode, which can be either manually scheduled or auto scheduled. So I'll just go back to my project 2010. Okay, so I'm just going to remove some of these activities. So by default, whenever you type a new task name, okay, you're able to see Microsoft project does not add anything, right? It does not add the duration, start or finish, or the other attributes. The reason is because this activity, currently the task mode is manually scheduled. When I say manually scheduled, you provide You are free to provide any type of data to the duration, to the start and the finish. But for the work, it should be only a numerical value, okay? So which means I can just try to provide some information like I need to talk to Sai, okay? Project will not alert you because your mode is on task mode is ideally in a manually scheduled mode, okay? But once I have the data, let me say I say 5 days. The moment I say 5 days, you are able to find project is able to predict provided, okay? And let me say the start date of this activity is going to be 5th. Now it has much more data. You would have seen compared to the earlier step where I entered 5 days, you had a pin with a question mark, right? You had an unpin with a question mark, which means it needs more information. But the moment I entered a start date, it says I'm able to predict the finish date now. You can now change it from manual to auto scheduled, okay? But remember, it is not mandated that you need to do the change, but this is just telling you an alert that you are now ready to change from manual to automatic. So people go for manual schedule only when they are coming up with from the point of selling that plan. They don't want any intelligence by Microsoft project. They want to provide dates. They want to give some key information to the plan, give it to the customer, get it approved. That is when they will ideally go for a manually schedule. But once you're going into the delegate mode or tracking mode or for a forecasting mode, you ideally need to move your task mode from manually scheduled to the auto schedule. Okay. So the moment I say auto schedule, okay, the moment I say auto schedule, look at what happens. Based on the information what Microsoft has, it automatically calculates the date for you. Okay, so you don't need to provide any more information. So that is what we mean by the manually scheduled or auto scheduled. Okay, the second piece of information you need to remember is, let's say if I have another activity called review. Okay, and that activity is also manually scheduled, and I have some dependencies between the first activity and the second activity. Now, though the dates are calculated, look what happens now. Something fishy happens. In my prepare document, if I just change the duration to 6 days, you ideally expect the review start dates to change. But you just observe review's task mode is still manually scheduled, right? So which means your start date and finish date will not get recalculated because it is in a manually scheduled mode. I hope now you are able to see there is a small red color squiggly line, like a grammatical error, right? Small wavy line that comes in. That tells you that there are some potential problems on terms of review document. You can just right click this option through which you have an option called Fix in Task Inspector. Okay, so this is the one which I just wanted to cover as a part of the agenda. What I mean by Task Inspector is it will allow you to inspect this task, and whenever there is a problem on a particular activity, it will give you options to resolve it. So let me say Fix in Task Inspector. Now to your left, you are able to see a Task Inspector pane. You can see the current task is displayed, and this also gives you a warning. The task may need to be delayed by another 1 day because, as you know, there is a dependency between prepare and review. There are two options available. The first option says respect links. When I say respect links, it is just a temporary arrangement, which means when I click on respect links, yeah, the dates get changed, but still the second is still then manually scheduled, which means if I just change 6 to 7, again you have the same problem. So respect links will not always give you a permanent solution. So if you want a permanent fix for this problem, for a review document, you need to change it to auto scheduled. I hope now you are able to find from the task inspector that alert has automatically disappeared, and it only gives you information about factors that are affecting this task. So it says it is auto scheduled, it starts on this date, it finishes on this date. The start date of this activity is driven by the predecessor, which is prepare. Okay, so just another example, let me say I have a feasibility study for 2 days. Okay, so let me say I say 2,1. So you can see my review is dependent on two activities, feasibility study and prepare document. But now you are able to find on my review document the predecessor task, it will tell only prepare document, because feasibility is will get completed even before prepare document gets completed. But in case if I just change it the other way, Now you are able to see the field of my review document. So you might want to look at this task inspector. So you don't need to wait for this alert to come to look at task inspector. You can always select the task which you want to inspect, and on your task ribbon there is an option called inspect, where you can say inspect task, okay, where it will try to bring this option to you. Okay, so another feature which I just wanted to talk about is called bottom up and top down scheduling. Okay, so I'm just going to remove this data, and let me say I have a phase in a project. Okay, so I'm just going to say I have okay, let me undo this change. Okay, let me say I have requirements. Okay, and I say requirement is ideally not an activity, it is ideally a phase in the project. Let me say given the duration of this is around 1 week. Okay, and design I've told it is another 1 week. Based on what you ideally provided, let me say it is 5th, and let's say it is 12th. Okay, you have given some dates, and this is a rough plan what you have shared. Once you are getting into the delegate mode, you need to break down requirements further. So I'm just going to insert a few tasks under this. Okay, so I'm just going to bring those activities. Okay, so I'm just going to say the first activity is TP, TR, TS. Okay, and I just, as you can see, I have done a top-down scheduling now. Okay, I have estimated the duration of the activities at the highest level, requirements and design phase, and now I am breaking it at a more lower level. So for prepare, let me say it is 2 days. For review, let me say it is 3 days. Okay, let me give a bigger number. Okay, 5 days, and let me say sign off is this. Since I want the bottom up should be more auto scheduled because it should be dynamic, I'm just going to make it auto scheduled by making use of this option, and I'm also going to link it. The moment I try to link it, I hope you are able to see the difference. The activities that are at the lowest level are auto scheduled, which means I have done a bottom up scheduling. Okay, and you can see the top down scheduling I have given 1 week. So which means I have committed to the customer 1 week, but from the bottom up it is taking more than 1 week to complete it. You can see on my right hand side my bottom up as gives you an alert here again, through which you will be able to give some options, right? You can just say fix it task inspector, where you can say extend the finish date to a later date, or you can also say change it to auto schedule. So this is a quite useful feature for us when you want to do both top down and bottom up simultaneously. Okay. The next one is easy collaboration. Okay, so if you are working on project 2010, you have an option through which you can export this data. Okay, you can export this data not alone to files, but you can also synchronize with your SharePoint also. So when you click on save, when you in your file Backstage, in your save and send, you have an option where you can say sync with task list. Here ideally you can provide the URL of the workspace where you really want to synchronize your data. So when you're trying to do it, naturally you will be able to synchronize the activities what you planned as a part of your project with your workspace. But the only point you need to remember is the SharePoint to which you synchronize should also be 2010, because this synchronization will not work in SharePoint 2003 or 2007. Okay, so this is another option through which you can easily collaborate with your team members. Okay, and the last one which I just want to touch upon is the backward compatibility. I hope all of us do know what backward compatibility is. The file, whatever you're trying to save, right, in project 2010, it is more in a native format. So you always have an option to save this in project 2007 or project 2003 format. Okay, but the only catch is when you're trying to save it in an older format like project 2000 or project, let me give you an idea about it. Let me say it is project. Okay, so I'm just going to say project 2003 version. You are able to get some warnings here. Okay, so maybe I just want you to take some time to look at the first few statements here. It says that if you're trying to export it to a different version of project which is very old, you might have some conflicts and you will lose some features. One feature is you can see my design activity was manually scheduled. This manually scheduled feature is not available in 7 or 3. So it is going to be automatically getting converted into auto schedule when you're going to export it. Okay. So these are some of the points you need to remember when you are exporting the data. Okay. So I just wanted to summarize the key points what we discussed. Point is the ribbon replaces the menus and toolbars. The second is the backstage view, that is a file view, replaces the file and the tools options of the earlier versions. We talked about an option through which you can add columns or fields to your view easily. Apart from it, there is a view through which you can look at who is doing to do which activity so that you can reassign those resources automatically. Followed by, we talked about the manually scheduled activities where you can try to give some rough estimates, where you can ideally provide some rough estimates at a very, very high level, okay? And you can do a bottom-up scheduling, and when there is a mismatch between bottom-up and top-down, you get an alert from Microsoft Project through which you can alert it. And last one, Microsoft Project does not need any converters because it is already inbuilt. You just need to save it in 2003 or 2007 format so that he can help you out. Okay. So this is what I have. So the next session is on how do we customize our calendars, because we might have different teams across different locations, each having different holidays and working days. So that is what is going to be the first one. Okay. So I just want you to go back, try to work on project 2010, look at the options what we discussed so that you have a hands-on before we move to section 2. The second one which I just wanted to focus is as a part of Microsoft website, there is an option called Microsoft Project 2010 Interactive Menu. This is ideally will be useful for people who are using Microsoft Project 2003 or 2007, but moving on to 2010. This option allows you to find out. So if you are using Project 2007, say, if I want to know where is project software available here, okay, so when the moment I select it, it automatically goes to 2010 and it tells you in which menu or which view menu item you would be able to find it. I'll give another try now. If I just say, I want to link my activities, okay, I want to link my activities. The moment I say link, it will go to the task ribbon. You are able to find this is the link option available. So you can just do a keyword search, interactive menu on ribbon guide in Google. You would be able to land in this page. And this is not having any license. This is just a Silverlight application through which you will be able. So that is what I have. Okay, so these are the remaining sessions available. So session 2 is on 12th, 5 p.m. Okay. And as a part of the series, we are going to also have a live web radio, which means I will be answering any of the questions what you're going to have. So there will be some formalities where you can post those questions on TechGig. We will take those questions and we will answer it on live during the program so that you get a confirmation how it works. And finally, if you like today's session, please visit my Facebook page. Okay, so www.facebook.com/Sai the Simple and just click on like. Okay, so please be free to write any comments because based on your comments, I am going to customize the remaining sessions accordingly. So thank you. So over to Mohini. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr. Sai, I have assigned you some of the questions there. Can you please check in your questions pane?
Okay. Sure, please. Okay. Okay, so let me read it. Is MPP 2010 file modified? Will work on. Yeah, I think I just answered it. Yeah, you can export your MPP 2010 to a different format, but the only challenge is the new features will get lost because there are new features like inactive task. There is a new feature like exceptions, work weeks, like manually scheduled. These data will get lost when you are trying to export it to a different format. The next one is from another participant. If multiple online collaboration possible on the same MPP file, which means can I example multiple users updating the same file real time. I cannot say you can update the file, but I just demonstrate an option through which you can synchronize your data to a SharePoint. Remember, SharePoint is a server. So your team members can log into the SharePoint, they can update the task list, and you as a manager can open Project 2010 and you can synchronize your data with your SharePoint task list. So that is something which you can try out. And this option is not available in 7 or 3. Can I manage more than 2 projects in one MPP? Yeah, we can do it. I didn't get into the details of it because I'm just storing it for the remaining program, but I'm just showing you the option that can help you. So project ribbon, there is an option called sub-project. So through which you can either insert a project. For example, let me save this file. Okay, and I'm just going to create another blank project, and you can just say insert project, this one. Okay, so you can ideally see that this project, right, my project is project 2, but it is ideally having another project within it. So through this way you will be able to insert as many projects, you can have cross dependencies between it. But this is something we will talk about more detail because it does not stop with just this simple option. We also need to look at whether to embed it or link it. How do we take care of resources who are shared across multiple projects? So that will be answered as a part of the upcoming session. Now let me move on to the next question I had. Okay, so I think that was done. The next one is, could you please show how to add milestones to the above timeline? Okay, so maybe I think there's something which we need to recollect. So I hope you know on my view ribbon, you can find there is a timeline option. So you can just right click the milestone and you can just say add to timeline. Okay, another way is you can just drag it and move it to the timeline also. Okay, so you might find it is getting automatically added to your timeline. So let me see it. So this is what I just wanted. I'm just dragging it, dropping it. You're able to find where your timeline, where I hope you can see your design sign off milestone is visible now. The next question was, what are the advantages and advanced features that can help advanced IT environments to ease up project management? Yeah, there are a lot in stores, but it cannot be summarized in one statement. I can ideally say advanced features in the sense it has a feasibility through which you can have better collaboration. Okay, because you have an option through which you can synchronize with SharePoint, and you can even save your MPP file in a common place. You can share it. The second is when you are trying to talk about advanced concept, right? You would like to have an overall picture about how your project is doing. For example, I would like to know who does which activity. I should be able to spot over allocations, problems much quicker. There should be a strong reporting mechanism. All these are available as a part of Project 2010. Okay, so if you can look at my series, you will be able to know which session will be more relevant for you also. The next one, I read from Microsoft Project I, the dream. Okay, so there is another question, which sectors have been used? I can ideally say a project is, because I have come from an IT background, so it is ideally more used in IT industries for product development as well as the services. Okay, apart from it, they use it in a lot of areas like pharma, I think, which you have already mentioned, public sector. I think that's only just a small list what has been published on the website, but you can see Microsoft project can be ideally used for any size of project, whether in a small scale or in a large scale. Okay, so there is no restriction on in which sector you can use it. Okay, how about skipping or not including off days while calculation duration? So maybe you want to, you're talking about, I think, more about holidays. I think that is something which we'll be answering as a part of the next episode. Do we have any change with respect to the view called resource sheet? Okay, let me try to bring that. You don't have much. I don't say much. I don't see any change with respect to the resource sheet. It is the same resources that are still available if you are using Project 2007. Okay, so you joined late. You wanted to know how TR/TD gets elaborated. Yeah, I think this is something which I told. You need to go to the file options, and you can find there is a option called proofing. Through proofing, you can click on this auto correct, and you can just find some replacements. Okay, so here I say TP. TP means prepared document. I've just recorded it here so that I can save a lot of time when I show you the demos. How do we have any changes? Okay. Do Project 2003 have manual or auto schedule? In Project 2003 and 2007, all tasks are only auto schedule. You can just take a look at the screen. The moment I enter a task name, right, automatically the dates are calculated. So it is automatic by nature. But this might be a bit frustrating for people who are just coming up with a high-level plan. They don't want the dates to be shown immediately. It is only for those people, or I can say people who are coming from Excel background to project. Okay, so in order to reduce their fear of using Project 2010, maybe the manually scheduling was introduced. Okay, so we have a few more questions. Is it possible to import MPP file of 2012 into an IBM? Okay, maybe you can write to me, okay, so that I can just get some more information, Imanshu. Okay, I don't have that info right now. How do we use it in Agile methodology planning? Why not? That's what my question is. It can ideally be used for any size of project. As long you ideally want to create a forecastable planning, I recommend that go for it. But don't you? I understand in a agile methodology you have a concept like backlogs and a lot of stuff. That is something that cannot be incorporated as a part of this. Okay. Ideally, you need to change the methodology you are going to work. You need to have different phases, one for each stream or each stream or sprint, and the remaining stream, you don't need to baseline it, you have it at a very high level, so that as the requirements gets prioritized, you might want to do it. Another feature you might want to look at is there is a feature available with respect to every task. Okay, if you look at Project 2010, if I change my view, you have an option called priority. Okay, maybe based on which sprint you are in or what is the backlog of the priority, you might want to use this priority field also. Okay, is S-curve available in 2012? Okay, sorry to correct you. We are using Microsoft Project 2010, but S-curve, I can say it is available, but it is more through visual reports. Okay, it is more through visual report. You can export the cost-related information like earned value, the actual budget, and the planned budget. You can export it. So this would be covered as a part of the reporting module. Okay. Is usage of Project 2012 ideal or suggested for a project in Agile mode? Does Project 2010 provide any specific functionalities for it? I recommend, there is no special functionality for a methodology. Okay, it's all in the way we look at it. Okay, so I recommend, maybe you can write out me, I can share you a few articles how people have used Project 2010 for an Agile projects. Okay, so please write to me on my email address. Okay, and what's the difference between Spider, Primavera, and Project? Okay, all are, I can say similarities are scheduling tools, but I can say Primavera more comes from Oracle, right? It is more, I can say, even before Project 2010 came in, or even before that, they had a concept like it is getting centralized into a common server. You cannot have a small local desktop. It is always tied or connected to a server in terms of a Primavera. If you look at the Spider, I can say Spider is more from Russia, right? So Spider scheduling tool, I can say, is more advanced in terms of scheduling. It has it will ask you a lot of data in terms of number crunching and doing it. But it all depends on what your usage is going to be. If you just wanted to more look for scheduling where I want to have a central focus and all my projects in my company are centralized on a common server, maybe say project 2010 or Primavera should be helpful. But if you're more looking at a detailed information like doing analysis like Monte Carlo simulation techniques, okay, you want to look at the critical path or the real critical path in your project, then Spider can ideally help. Okay. What is the shortcut to set milestone? There is, I hope I don't see any shortcut available there, but you can see on your task ribbon there is an option here through which you can insert this milestone. If you want a better shortcut, you can right click and say add to quick access toolbar so that you have this milestone right away. You're able to see my milestone gets added on the screen. Few more questions. Shall we be able to set permissions to MPP file? Yeah, it is like a normal MPP desktop file. You should be able to set permissions. But you cannot set permission more at a view level, but you can set permission more at a file level. How do we do risk management in MPP? I can say how do we do risk management in a schedule? I think that's a better way to put it. Yeah, we have a concept called critical path, right? We can look at a network diagram to understand the dependencies between different activities. So you can see what is having a dive in and a dive out. Okay, you can find out the critical path. You can do resource optimization. Okay. You can also look at doing a what-if analysis, okay, through the task inspector or through the options available in Project 2010. When the percentage complete is updated to 100% and the completed date is still ahead, well, when percentage complete is updated and the completion date is still, yeah, it will record both the dates. I think your confusion is more about how do I know what has been promised and what has been completed, right? You would like to know the promised date and the new date. Yeah, there is a concept called tables, as I already told you. One table which I currently use is called entry table, which is ideally a dynamic table. There's another table which you want to look at called baseline table, which has only promises what you have made to the customer. The third table which I'm going to talk the remaining sessions is called tracking table, through which you would be able to know the list of activities that have already been completed. So naturally your tracking table's data based on the progress, that data will flow into the entry table so that you can compare your entry table and your baseline table to know whether you are ahead or behind your schedule. Okay, so I think I have emptied my question bank. Okay, so this is just the final one. I'm just repeating it. So you can just go to my Facebook page, Sai the Simple, and if you like this session, you want to hear more on these topics, please give your comments on this Facebook page. Thank you guys, and thanks for this opportunity. And if you have any more questions, please write to me. Thank you.
There's one more question from Mr. Vikas Gupta. Can you please answer that?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, please. So his question was, can we create a chart representation of the shown data, like show task with resources, graphical representation? Yeah, we can do it. I can just give you a small demo of it so that you have a feel of how it works. You have an option here by which task with resources. Okay. Let me get it. Okay. So one way is through the views. You have a view called task usage. Okay. You can find it. There is an option called task usage, through which you would ideally know the list of activities along with the resources who are working on it. Okay. The second view is maybe you can make resources. You can ideally say this resource is working on this activity, and you might want to scroll to that particular task to know how many hours does he work on those individual days. So the option is on the view ribbon. There is an option called resource usage where tasks are more grouped by resources. Another called task usage where the resources are grouped under your tasks. Thanks, Mohini. Thanks for this question. Thank you.
Ready, set, go, preparing project 2010 to build a schedule, and this was the first session in Microsoft Project 2010 series. We look forward to more. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for the support in making this webinar a success. The recording of this webinar will be available on techgeek.com by evening. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.